बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम नहमदुहु व नसल्लिहि अला रसूलिहिल नसल्ली अला रसूलिहिल करीम व अला आलिहि व असहाबिहि अजमाइन अम्मा बाद. This is English translation of the talk, Rectifying Bad Moral Values by Hazrat Maulana Mufti Muhammad Taqi Usmani Damat Barakatuhum. The bad moral values that exist in a person's inner self or his nafs are called Akhlaq-e-Razilah. Hazrat Thanvi RE said, Salik means a mentee or pupil in Tasawuf, should get his bad moral values rectified one by one by the Shaykh. When one bad moral value becomes attenuated and comes under his full control, then he should start getting the next one treated. He should not wait for the first one to go away or be eradicated completely, as it is impossible. There are many benefits behind the existence of these bad moral values. The word Salik literally means a traveler. In the terminology of Tasawuf, a person who goes to a Shaykh for the purification of his inner self is known as Salik, meaning he is traveling on the path of self-improvement. And the Shaykh is like a mentor who guides him, like, go this way, don't go that way. Hazrat Thanvi RE has recommended that the Salik should get his bad moral values rectified and treated by the Shaykh one by one. For example, a person is prone to outbursts of uncontrolled and explosive anger, which lead to him losing control of his temper and then screaming and yelling at people and hitting them unjustly. This is a bad moral trait and it needs to be treated. Now his responsibility is to inform his Shaykh that he suffers from excessive and uncontrollable anger and he commits a number of transgressions under the influence of that anger. The Shaykh will then guide him towards bringing that anger under control. It does not mean that as a result of that treatment, he'll stop getting feelings of anger altogether. Anger is a natural drive, a natural emotion, which is experienced by all human beings. He will still feel anger after undergoing this treatment, but as a result of this treatment, his anger will become subservient to the limits imposed by Sharia on how much anger a person is allowed to express and under what circumstances. It is important to understand that all the moral values we have, which are generally considered bad, are all natural. Allah Ta'ala has put these traits in us so that we use them at appropriate times. For example, if a person has no anger, then how would he defend his life, his property, his honor, his family? Not having any anger would mean that if someone attacks him or his family, he will not feel any anger, and there will be no drive in him to protect himself or his family. Allah Ta'ala has given us this emotion of anger so that if another person attacks your life, your property, your family, your relatives, then you use this emotion of anger to defend them. But if a person starts acting angrily in situations where it's not justified to do so, and in situations in which Sharia has prohibited us to express anger in, and start shouting and screaming at other people or hitting them in anger, then it is inappropriate use of this emotion. Becoming angry in such situations is haram, that is unlawful. So, there are some situations in which it is appropriate to use anger, and there are some situations in which it is inappropriate to use anger. For example, if a person's son does something wrong, then it is appropriate for the father to discipline him, or a teacher chastising a student, or a sheikh, a murid. It's appropriate to use anger in such situations. In fact, it may be wrong not to use anger in all such circumstances. On the other hand, using anger in inappropriate situations and excessively is a spiritual illness. For example, a guest comes to visit you and you start scolding him and telling him off. This is inappropriate use of anger, as we should be honoring our guests. and being courteous to them. Such behavior is condemnable and should be rectified. Bringing one's anger under control so that it is only expressed in situations in which it is permitted to do so by the Sharia, and not expressing it in situations where it is impermissible to express it, is what one needs to learn from one's Shaykh. If you get angry from time to time, but you do not know whether you express your anger appropriately or inappropriately, just tell your Shaykh about the situations in which you feel anger, how angry you get, and what do you do under the influence of your anger. He will guide you about whether you are expressing your anger appropriately or not. And if you already know that you get angry unduly and excessively, then tell your Shaykh about your excessive anger and the situations you express that anger in. The Shaykh will guide you about how to gradually bring that anger under control and how to use your anger in appropriate situations only. Then follow his advice. Or, for example, if a person harbors the bad moral trait of hasad, that is jealousy or envy, this is an explanation by me that in the terminology of Tasawuf, hasad means that a person feels so envious or jealous of something good befalling another person. For example, someone coming into wealth or getting a very good job, that this person who's jealous wishes and prays, in extreme cases makes actual efforts for that person to lose his good fortune, like lose his wealth or his job. So Hazrat said, this person must tell his Shaykh that he thinks he suffers from hasad. For example, if in an exam his colleague gets more marks than him, then he feels really jealous and wants him to get less marks or fail next time. He should ask the Shaykh if this is hasad, and if it is, how to get rid of it. Similarly, for example, a person has excessive physical desires and he is worried that it will make him do things outside the bounds of Sharia, then he should ask the Shaykh how to bring those desires under control. Or if he feels or others tell him that he is suffering from takabbur, that is grandiosity or arrogance. In terminology of tasawwuf, takabbur means that a person believes that he is superior to others and others are inferior to him. This takabbur is such an illness that most people who suffer from it have no insight that they are suffering from it. No mutakabbir meaning a person who suffers from takabbur, ever calls himself mutakabbir. If anyone else asks him, "Do you do takabbur?" he will always reply, "No, I don't," because he truly believes in his heart that other people are genuinely inferior to him, and it is not just his belief. However, other people can recognize the takabbur in him. So, if other people tell someone that what he does or says is symptomatic of takabbur, he should ask his Shaykh if it is truly takabbur, and if it is, what do we do about it? So, the purpose of going to a Shaykh shouldn't just be to ask how much zikr, that is remembrance of Allah, should he perform, how many tasbihat should he recite each day, or how many nawafil should he pray each day. These nawafil, tasbihat, zikr are all aids on the way to tazkiyah, that is purification of one's inner self. But they are not the primary goal. The primary goal of tasawwuf is that a person keeps critically evaluating every moment of his life and should keep reflecting on his behavior, whether he performed any actions under the influence of takabbur, whether he became unduly and excessively angry at some point, whether he did something under the influence of greed, or whether he is suffering from excessive love of this material world. He should keep evaluating all his behaviors, keep informing his Shaykh about his spiritual ills, keep asking the Shaykh about how to treat them, and keep practicing the remedies his Shaykh tells him to perform. If he finds it difficult to follow any of the remedies for some reason, he should inform his Shaykh about those difficulties too. In essence, he should keep informing his Shaykh about every aspect of the purification of his inner self. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah used to say that when a person develops a mentorship relationship with a Shaykh, then he needs to do two things. Ittala or ittaba. Ittala means to inform, and ittaba means to then follow the guidance. Inform or ittala in this context means that he should keep informing the Shaykh about how he's progressing with the purification of his inner self and what is still remaining. Ittaba or following means that he should follow whatever advice the Shaykh gives him after hearing about his situation. This is how purification of inner self happens. Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah further said, the evidence for the bad moral values being natural is that we see that children also get angry, and scholars have said that anger stems from takabbur. This anger then leads to backbiting. If children get angry, it means they also have takabbur, and if children have takabbur, it means that these traits occur naturally. The reason for mentioning this here is to clarify that because these bad moral values are natural, a disciple or murid should not hope in vain that one day his nafs will be completely free of these. They will never go away completely. Neither the anger will subside completely, nor the root of takabbur will go away completely. The aim is to make these attributes weak, to attenuate them, so that they stop having an impact on a person's thoughts, emotions, and behavior. Explaining this, Hazrat Thanvi Rahmatullah said, the aim of attenuating bad moral values is to weaken them to an extent that they come under the person's voluntary control. Weakening means that after Mujahidah means sustained effort, it becomes easier to oppose those impulses. It means that these spiritual ills cannot be removed or extinguished completely from one's inner self. However, they can become a lot weaker so that it takes much less effort to oppose them and not act on them when they are driving us to do bad things. The same is true of everything we do in this world, whether we do it for dunya, which is material world, or deen, meaning religion. Sustained effort makes it easier for us to start doing something on a regular basis. For example, when a person who was previously not in the habit of praying salah regularly, it seemed very difficult for him at that time to go to the masjid 5 times a day and pray salah there, and took a mammoth effort in the beginning. However, if he keeps doing this for a period of time and develops a habit of praying salah in masjid 5 times a day, then it takes him much less effort to keep doing the same later on. It is rare that he will get to a stage where it takes no effort at all. He will need to continue to make some effort, keep opposing his nafs, that is his inner self, which will try to convince him from time to time to take it easy today and just pray at home. But because he has developed a habit, the effort it will take to go to the masjid will be much less than he needed to make when he started doing it. The reward we get for praying salah is actually a reward for that effort, for opposing our nafs. If we did not have to make any effort, what would we get the reward for? That is why we do need to continue to make some effort to pray salah regularly throughout our life. Same is true of bad moral values. For example, previously a person used to get angry excessively and on trivial matters. He would start screaming and yelling and abusing, hitting people if anyone said anything that displeased him in the slightest. Then when he started undergoing self-improvement As he started traveling on the path of tazkiyah, that is a purification of inner self, he learned that becoming angry excessively and in inappropriate situations is a sin. Then the next time he comes across a situation he would have become angry in previously, he suppresses his anger and stops himself from exploding. Even if he feels strongly, like screaming at or slapping the other person, he tries his best to stop that impulse and keep his temper under control. For a person who always used to explode in anger without restraint, it is initially extremely difficult and takes a Herculean effort to restrain his temper. But as he keeps practicing it, it becomes easier with repeated practice to the point that even though he may still feel anger, he finds it much easier to stop himself from expressing it.